Well, I was speaking to a prospect the other day who had a question for us about whether they need financial advice or not. They were 62 and they just received $1 million inheritance. Didn't know what to do, didn't know where to start. I'm Martin McGrath, Financial Edge Group. We help people get their retirement sorted. So this question was really about what do I do with this money? I've got a bit of a mortgage, how does it kind of fit together? So 62 years old, still working, plan to retire within kind of 2 years ideally, received an inheritance, $1 million basically, no tax. Had around 300 grand in their mortgage, had around 40 or 50 grand in savings, 10 or 20,000 in shares, and around 450,000 in super. So this $1 million is really going to change their life. In this situation, they were a couple, and the couple kind of had similar kind of figures, still working, earning about 100 grand each kind of thing. So super combined was about 800,000. What they should do is take the time to think about it. But from my mind, and from a financial point of view, the options were pretty kind of clear and a few things that we wanted to talk through with them and we'll likely give them advice on. But some things to consider. Importantly, this is general advice. It's important to get personal advice. But what we're going to look to do is, one, clear that debt. We want to be debt-free in retirement. We don't want to carry that debt into retirement. So number one, get rid of the debt. So out of the $1 million, 300 grand will go and that debt will be gone. Leave the cash, a bit of a cash buffer, but that'll be gone. They're both in their 60s. They're still working. So they've got a decent super balance for sure, but what's the next best place is money inside a super. As we know, the government's likely to change the rules around investing and tax implications of that. Therefore, money inside a super is where we want that to be. So number two, which ends up being 2 and 3 and maybe even 4, we want to load some money into super. Now for them, they were at a threshold where they had below $500,000 in super, which meant there was an opportunity to load some extra money into super. So we'll probably be putting in $50,000 or $60,000 each as concessional contributions to super. I've done different videos about what they are, how they work. In this case, we're going to use what's called a carry forward contribution to catch up some of their contributions they haven't used previously. Big strategy. That alone is probably going to save them 30, 35 grand in personal tax. Super fund might pay 10, 15 grand in tax, but a 20 grand tax saving just by moving that money into super. And then in the future, that money's going to be invested in a much better tax environment. That still leaves them with 500 or 600 grand left over, more than what they need. There's a holiday, maybe a renovation on the home, but the goal will then be to move a large chunk of that extra money into super. Even though we've done those concessional contributions, there's the ability to go and do non-concessional contributions. Probably we'll end up doing is say 390,000 for one of the partners, 120, maybe 130 for the other partner as a non-concessional contribution into super. No tax when that money goes in, no tax saved, but no tax loss when it goes into super. And basically that $1 million in round figures, 300 grand off the mortgage, 50 or 100 to kind of play with around home or whatever needs be. And the other 600 grand is going to end up in super. Why inside of super? While we're still working, we're only taxed at 15% on that, on the earnings of that, which is much lower than your personal tax rates. And when they retire, which is going to be pretty soon, the income on that is taxed at 0. No tax within super and no tax on what you take out. So is that what you should do with $1 million? Figure that out yourself as such or find to get some advice. But there's an idea of something that kind of makes sense. There's a big wealth generation transfer happening. People should get personal advice around their own situation, depending on their mortgage level and bits and pieces. But having a plan, putting that money to work so it just doesn't disappear, but also pays the right level of tax. And ideally, that's less tax than investing in your own name. Hope that's helpful. Share that with someone that maybe is having a beneficial windfall like this soon.